Where is she? Unkai went, as he ran to the corner at a flat sprint. Here, you dingus! Sapphire shouted at him. For the god's sake, they were in the middle of the room, kneeling over Esmeralda. He ran over as quickly as he could, coming to a sliding halt. Not a bad-looking maneuver, in fact. Right, what have we got? She stabbed him in the gut, Sapphire stated matter-of-factly. I see. Out you come. The small dagger clanked to the floor as Unkai set about, stopping the bleeding. Don't worry, you'll live. Gonna need to do this properly at some point, though. Properly? Esmeralda replied, worriedly. Shh. Now, lay still, otherwise this will end up looking weird. At that, Esmeralda lay pretty still. There were cool scars and hideous scars. The latter was best avoided, after all. Tyborg handed Sapphire the blade. It was a nicely made piece, finely decorated, even a bit of gold trimming. You expect this to kill a Huntress? She spat at the lady who was currently being pinned down and in the process of being bound, to much protest from her three companions who had decided now was the right time to join in the discussion. They clearly thought some kind of injustice was being committed, restraining someone for attempted murder. After Kalinki made it very clear that attempting to get in his way right now would be a very unhealthy idea, they resorted to just standing well clear, making accusations and threats. The lady, though, appeared to have calmed down. She didn't even answer Sapphire, instead just looking at her with a fiendish grin on her face. Sapphire looked down to the dagger. It was covered in blood, but the blade itself was rather unremarkable. She held it up and sniffed it. All she got was the blood of her friend, so she licked it with just the tip of her forked tongue. It's poison! She screamed, spitting out the foul concoction. Clean it! Clean it! Sorry, this is going to hurt. Unkai went, before he cut the wound back open. I need water, now! Several bottles and skins were quickly produced, as they went about rinsing the wound as best they could. Sapphire just sat down beside Esmeralda to hold her hand. What the hell is going on? Shiva went, as she and Jackalope ran to the corner. She stabbed Esmeralda with a poisoned dagger. What? Jackalope replied, head snapping to the lady, making for her at a flat sprint. Shoulder-checking Lattori off her and grabbing her by the shoulders, she pounded her into the floor. What did you use? What did you use? It took a bit before Jackalope stopped shaking her enough to let her speak. Green dragon venom, of course. I'll get the old man. He'll know, right? Jackalope went, getting up, looking around in a panic. Now, where is he? What is going on down here? A puma went, rounding the corner with a gaggle of kids on his heels. Oh, my word, Essie, he went, clearly not understanding the gravity of the situation. Antidote for green dragon venom, now, Jackalope roared at him. His face almost went as white as the kids behind him, as he turned to run back the way he came. Hurry, hurry, out of the way! Jackalope running after him. Did that bitch really manage to kill me? Esmeralda asked Sapphire, clutching her hand. No, of course not. You're staying right here, don't you worry. That's as clean as I can get it, Unkai went, beginning to close the wound back up. Will that be good enough? Tyborg questioned. You tell me, I have no clue how much you need to kill, Unkai replied in a disheartened tone. Where's the Nook when you need her? Sapphire sighed despairingly. Unkai looked a bit ashamed at that comment, but it was the truth. She would know. Sapphire just hoped a puma did too. At least it wasn't Dakota who had been around. Sapphire doubted she could bear not being able to do more. Tom was feeling rather pleased with himself. They had secured a dragon for the keep and convinced him to actually help out around here. They would be receiving a shipment of both raw materials, tools, and other spare parts from the capital signed for by Hoshore, even if the box said it was for Jarek's. They also had 2 new hands to help out around the keep with everyday stuff, and with Jarek's helping on the hunts, they didn't even need the quad bike to haul things back and forth long distance. Hoshore had also agreed to drop these ridiculous charges against them if the lady hadn't somehow managed to dig something up while they were gone. They would be departing tomorrow, or possibly the day after that, and they were taking the bitch with them. All in a very productive start to the day. The scene that greeted them as Jarek's came into land, though, was an odd one, though. Dragonettes were everywhere. Some running back and forth. Esmeralda was lying down, and Lady Flaxen was also on the ground, though she had 2 royal guards on her back keeping her down. What the hell? Jarek went in confusion, as he struggled to find a place to land without squashing someone. Archon ended up veering off to land on the ground along with Baron, his passengers disembarking mid-flight. The landing was less than gracious, but they were down safe and sound. The same could not be said for Esmeralda. Tom had half fallen off Jarek's, doing a not-so-gracious stumble running over. Sapphire quickly explained the situation. A poison dagger? What the fuck? How does one even treat that? Where is the puma? The Nook shouted as she touched down. Already on it, came the reply. Well, that was something at least. You got something, Tom? The Nook questioned, turning to him. What kind of poison? Green dragon, Sapphire replied. That didn't sound good to Tom. Oh, shit, the Nook replied, turning away from Tom. That really didn't help his confidence. Jarix turned away, slinging his head over to the side. Green dragon poison antidote, we got any? He roared down towards Baron. What? Why? Baron's questioned voice carrying clearly. Just get it up here now, Jarix replied, turning back, closing the argument. Tom just stood there, not sure what to do. He had never had to deal with poison before, apart from, bee stings or jellyfish. Those were annoying, not fatal though. Dakota and the Nook had made their way to Esmeralda, clearly doing what they could. What to do? What to do? He couldn't just look up how to treat dragon poison in anything other than a D&D book. This stuff might even be magical. Wait, if Jarix asked for an antidote, there must be one. No way that bitch was brave enough not to have some then. Only a coward uses poison and cowards have a backup plan. Where is your antidote? He went, kneeling down in front of her, levelling the gun at her head. Haven't got one, not anymore, she just replied with a sly smile. That little flask, you monster, you planned this! Sapphire screamed out, clearly having heard what they were talking about. Oh, fuck all kinds of duck. No one talks to me like that and lives, the bitch spat back at Sapphire. What is wrong with Essie? Holdy asked, walking over. Some of the escorts quick to shoo him away. They didn't need to see this. Lady Flaxen, you just attempted to murder a close friend who I am by an oath sworn to defend. If she dies, you die, Tom stated as coldly as his rising temper would allow, pushing the revolver against her forehead, cocking the hammer. I am a noble, you vile creature. Touch me and you're dead. I highly fucking doubt that. You're less noble than the street rat, so let me make it very clear for you. I will fucking murder you, mount your head as a trophy above my door, cut you into little pieces, and send you to the corners of this world, so your family may spend a lifetime trying to find enough for you to have a burial. Tom more than had it with this piece of shit. It would seem the lady barely even registered that threat. Kalinki and Dotori both stiffened up, though. Look around you. They will burn this keep to the ground if that happens. You people have called me many things. Terror in the Night, Master of Death, Legendary Warrior, and a God of War. Believe me when I tell you I don't give a shit who you are, and if I say so, you die. Along with anyone dumb enough to stand beside you. Kalinki, are you dumb enough to die defending a murderer? Nope, she's all yours. He replied sounding like he was trying to hide a shiver. It would seem that the message even made it through that thick skull of hers, as the smile finally faded. Tom got back up, looking to Esmeralda. They were keeping her lying down and as calm as they could manage. The poison was likely well spread through her system already, but it might help a bit. She was also turning a sickly shade of green. It was slow, but around the ears, neck, and between her fingers, there was no mistaking it. It looked like she was rotting in front of them. Unkai had brought some foul-smelling concoction, which they were force-feeding her. Kakashi had also arrived, taking Sapphire's place by his wife's side, doing his best to comfort her. It was a miserable spectacle. Not again, Tom thought. Why did it have to be like this again? And he was just standing there like an idiot making threats to the stupid bitch. He could just shoot her and be done with it. Sure, there might be consequences, but who the fuck cared right now? He'd been doing well with his teaching, though. Might as well have another lesson. Get her on her feet, he went. The two guards actually obeyed, which was nice. Grabbing her by the shoulders, getting the bitch to her feet. Arms, legs, and wings all tied up. Would you mind making her look at what she has done? You know, like training a stupid kid not to do something. The two royal guards looked to each other before nodding and bringing her over. You need a lesson in responsibility and consequences. Look at her. Look at what you did. The lady gave a quick glance, then looked back to Tom. Oh no. She must be unwell. Someone should help her, she taunted them. Tom pulled an uppercut from the floor, sending his armored gauntlet up into her jaw with a cracking sound. The hit left her dazed, and clearly struggling to get her bearings as she swayed. If she wasn't being held up by the shoulders, Tom guessed that would have put her on her ass. Then he grabbed one of her horns and turned her to look at Esmeralda again. I said, look at her, not glance. It took a while for the bitch to get back to her senses following what might have been the first proper hit to her face she could remember. She's dying, so what? So did Dashu. That is a mother of two, used to be free. Then your piece of shit traitor cousin came by. On that note, Tom turned her head to look at him, then headbutted her, helmet first, in the mouth as she opened it to speak. The bitch screamed, but Tom got what he wanted, as he knocked a canine loose. There we go, matching set, he went, pocketing the tooth. What the fuck was that? Ashore demanded, coming in for a running landing, not pleased by what she was seeing. I take a tooth from each murderer who comes to this keep. Ashore glanced around quickly, her eyes landing on Esmeralda. You gotta be kidding me. Make room, coming through. The colonel borderline kicked some of the escorts out of the way, who were too slow on their feet. Sitting down next to Esmeralda, opening a leather pouch she had slung over her shoulder, looking through the contents. Black cipher? Drakebane? No, not Godtiz. There we go. She produced a tiny quart vial of clear liquid. Drink, Huntress. For the love of God, drink. They actually had an antidote. Oh, those magnificent bastards. Sapphire stepped back to make room for the ones who actually knew what they were doing, and Kakashi, of course. She'd only heard of what green dragon poison did to someone. Actually seeing it was a horrifying experience. Esmeralda was practically light green by now, and her breathing was slow and laboured. She had stopped talking, and she didn't even seem to be looking at anything anymore. They had to massage her throat to get the antidote down her throat. Then the waiting game began. Esmeralda had sputtered and was making noises. She also began thrashing about, so it was clearly doing something. But Sapphire wasn't sure it was all good. Looking around, she was clearly not alone in her worries. Sapphire knew that the antidote could save Esmeralda's life, but she had no clue if they had made it in time. It hadn't been more than a few minutes since she was stabbed, yet there was no mistaking this was going to be a close call. The concoction Puma had whipped together was apparently supposed to give her more time, so for the second time, in the last long while, she sat down to give a prayer, pleading that they had been fast enough, and for Ishan not to take her friend yet. There was no way Letho was going to be getting Esmeralda's soul, but surely Ishan could wait a little longer for its just dues. Rachuk had suggested getting her kids, so they could say farewell to their mother. Kakashi had begged him not to, clearly holding back tears. It just wasn't fair that it was them again. First Anastasia, now this. Esmeralda couldn't even talk, so it wouldn't have been much of a goodbye anyway. Sapphire just sat down with her eyes closed, focusing on her prayer. She felt someone sit down on either side of her, beginning to mutter as well. She could hear Tom continuing to force Lady Flaxen to watch, having made it abundantly clear that if Esmeralda didn't make it, neither would she. Ashore might have something to say on that front, but Sapphire guessed there would be 2 bodies before the Colonel got the chance to intervene. The sound of an armoured gauntlet striking home could be heard with even intervals, breaking the uncomfortable noises Esmeralda was making and the complaining screaming coming from Lady Flaxen. Sapphire added a plea to bar the skies of heaven, should the lady somehow find her way up there. As the sounds died down around her, it felt like the whole room was holding its breath. Only the murmuring of those in prayer could be heard alongside the struggling Huntress, for whom they were praying. The lady even learned her lesson, was possibly unable to struggle anymore. Sapphire didn't know how much time passed, but it was an uncomfortably long wait. She just repeated her prayer again and again. This was a mother she wasn't done down here yet. She was a friend too, a one who would be sorely missed. With time, the sputtering was replaced with coughing and wheezing. Sapphire just kept praying, not sure if that was good or bad. Looks like you can put that away. The Nook finally broke the silence. Sapphire dared to open her eyes to see a completely still Esmeralda, except for her chest moving up and down with slow breaths. That's good, right? Fengi cautiously asked. She'll live, yes, O'Shaw clarified. Tom, would you please take the gun out of the lady's mouth? Tom obliged, stepping back to give the others some room, as Glinky and Notori dragged the lady away. It was clear Tom had been less than gentle with her face. Let her rest for now, then move her to the infirmary. I'm going to see if a Puma has anything that will help further. Don't kill her yet, the Nook went, holding up an authoritarian finger pointing to the lady. That would be damn hard not to do, Sapphire thought to herself, as she got up to see how Esmeralda was doing. The green was fading, slowly, and she was breathing steadily. It was clear this had not been an easy trip, though. Rakshasa and Vigon had been allowed to come over, Esmeralda weakly holding each of their hands as she struggled to speak. At a short instant she relented, instead just weakly stroking each of them across the snout a bit. Don't worry, Mother is okay, Kakashi tried as the horrified kid started crying. She's going to be just fine. The kind Colonel helped her very much. No, I did not, Ashore replied, getting up. You two! How in the name of all that is holy did you manage to let a weakling of a noble get away with stabbing someone with a poisoned dagger? Glinky snapped to attention and started explaining rapidly. Esmeralda managed to grievously insult the lady, then Lady Flaxen proceeded to try and fistfight a Huntress. We just kind of let her. Esmeralda was even laughing at how useless she was, then that happened. He pointed to the knife curling in Dakota's hands. Sapphire didn't disagree with him. It had been hilarious to watch just how hopeless the lady was. Hard to find the situation funny now, though. Ashore rubbed her temples with her offhand, right one firmly placed on the pommel of her sword. You mean to tell me you let her attack and didn't even try to stop her? Give me strength. Kalinki was well statured, tall and muscular for a man. Right now, though, he more closely resembled a puma hunched over and head held very low. Latoya didn't seem to be affected in the slightest, though. Honor duels aren't that uncommon. The lady's honor was insulted and she was sure fit to defend it. The use of underhanded tricks aside, she was technically allowed to do that, especially towards a non-noble. It was a considerable insult, after all. Do you please elaborate on this magic insult she came up with? Ashore continued in a pained tone. Well, Esmeralda appears to believe the lady has very intimate relations with young Dashu, which led to why she is so convinced that those who condemned it should be prosecuted. What? Ashore replied, clearly not quite grasping the implications, so Sapphire endeavored to elaborate. She's an incestuous bitch, Colonel, and that's all there is to it. This doesn't even concern family honor, because they haven't got any. You snivelling little... The Colonel ended the lady's Immersion rant, taking a page out of Thomas' book, backhanding her with her gauntleted hand. Shut up unless spoken to. Well, that certainly explains a few things. You got proof? Oh, yeah, we do, Sapphire thought to herself. Well, she felt the need to lie about where Dashu's sword was from, claiming it was a gift from his father, which we have discovered definitely isn't the case, as Dashu claimed it was a gift from his extended family and refused to answer questions about it. Then there was her reaction. Not exactly calm, is it? Nor does the excuse of protecting her family's honor line make sense when her behavior the last 2 days is taken into account. Ashore looked at the lady, who was about able to stand on her feet again at this point. Lady Flaxen, you are under arrest for attempted murder. Additionally, you are hereby charged with lying in front of a royal court, fabrication of evidence to insinuate traitorous behavior, misleading and lying to members of the royal guard in the field, and breaking the royal hospitality to the most extreme extent I've ever seen, while in my care. Ashore sounded furious, especially at that last point. This was not just a terrible stain on the lady's honor, but hers as well. How do you plead? The lady just looked at Ashore with a contemptuous gaze, not saying a word. Very well. As stated, you are under arrest as are your compatriots. Tie them up. Ashore went, gesturing with her hand at the remaining road dragonettes. They looked like they didn't have a clue what was going on. Lady Dakota Bismarti, I would like to take Lady Flaxen before the royal court, to which she lied. Is that agreeable to you? Most definitely. Do you require testimony? Dakota responded, with a poorly restrained fury in her voice. Sapphire would have preferred they gave her a fitting send-off immediately. That would be greatly appreciated, the Colonel responded. Volson, would your route happen to take you back to the capital? No, the trader responded, seemingly unsure. Are you sure? Come on, Volsey, they want you to testify as well, and Tyborg saw the whole thing, didn't you? Jarrix pleaded. Volsey, Sapphire thought to herself. That was adorable. She needed to remember that one. All right, sure. We just so happened to be going that way anyway. Good man, Sapphire thought to herself. She would hate to see the lady get away with any of this. Excellent. We can discuss the details later. First off, you lot tend to your friend and I'll take care of these disappointments. Ashore responded. I'm keeping her tooth, Tom stated in a fierce tone. Sapphire guessed he had a very itchy trigger finger right now. Sure, I don't care. Just don't take any more souvenirs. Ashore dismissed him. Shame. Could have used some white boots, he replied, turning back to Esmeralda. Those who were not either tending to Esmeralda or keeping curious kids away set about tying up the 3 accompanying dragonettes and loading them onto Jarrix. They would be placed under the watchful eye of Baron, who Sapphire guessed would be less than pleased to hear what had happened. 2 of them were just silent, clearly not quite sure what to do in a situation like this, or possibly having taken the lady's wisdom of don't admit to anything before a court hearing to heart. The last one had been apologising profusely, as damn well he should, Sapphire thought. They were all taken away by Jarrix, along with the lady. Following that, Esmeralda had been moved to the infirmary, as carefully as they could manage. There she was fed more foul-smelling concoctions of a puma's design. The improvement was a lot slower than the deterioration, but it was clearly working. Sapphire had been asked to recount the sequence of events for everyone, and now that Esmeralda was clearly going to be okay, at least she would be eventually. They even had a bit of a laugh at just how absurd stabbing someone in the middle of a large hall full of people was. Quite a few jokes were had at the lady's expense, or the bitch, as Jackalope had so eloquently named her, with Tom's approval. The news that all charges against them were going to be dropped anyway did sour Sapphire's mood a bit. She really wanted Essie to get the credit for it after all that happened. Still, since they had gone from having their charges dropped to now having charges pressed against the bitch, it hadn't all been for nothing. Tom wasn't in a very good mood though, spending most of the time sculling at Esmeralda, even if he had made it very clear he didn't believe she had done anything wrong. He had told him that Jax had agreed to his whole teaching idea, and joked that Shiva better fire up the forge because she had the largest Huntress crown ever to make. Even Esmeralda had chuckled slightly at that notion, even if she sounded quite pained doing so. Kakashi did his best to calm her down again before she hurt herself. Quite how Tom had pulled that off, Sapphire wasn't sure, but having a dragon along for the hunts, rather than just having to feed it, would certainly help a lot, especially if they were sending people to the capital to testify. When Tom had started asking questions like, if they had a pulling harness for a dragon, so Jax could plough, Sapphire had damn near lost it. Ralph and Wipurna did. They all thought he had been joking. Sapphire had actually heard a story about a green dragon taking up field work, as odd a combo as that seemed, but a blue dragon of the royal guard ploughing fields, that was hilarious. When she found out he was actually serious, she laughed even harder. Perhaps it was more of a nervous reaction, following having yet another close friend cheat death, by a far too uncomfortable margin. But damn, that was funny to her for some reason. Dakota and Nanook both confirmed it though. This was getting weirder and weirder.